What is up, good people? Thank you for checking me out here at the Real Counselor's Corner. As always, you can follow me on all social platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, under the handle at the Real Counselor's Corner. It is early, kinda. It's about I have a clock so I can tell you exactly what time it is. 7:20 a.m. on a Sunday. Got my coffee. It was a necessity. Had to jump up and make a video, even though it's early. But you know, when you got that feeling, it just can't wait. You gotta get it. Can't fight the feeling. Remember Hammer had that song, Can't Fight the Feeling? A lot of other people had a song with that title too. But I remember MC Hammer had that song, Can't Fight the Feeling. So anyway, but so yeah, I had to jump up, and one of the things I try to do is try to learn a lot of different things and read a lot, so on and so forth. So then I have things locked and loaded when ideas come to my mind, to where I don't have to go research something. I can just jump right to it and just share what I know. So it was a situation like that. So I had to jump up, even though it's 7:20 in the morning on a Sunday. But you know, time waits for no man. You know, this may save a life. Who am I to lay down if I have some information that I think could save a life? So let's get to it. Coffee. So this idea came from, I have a young man he's still a young man to me, but he's an adult now, but was one of my students when I was a counselor at Highland Middle School. And this young man had made a statement about, you know, some of the struggles he's dealing with and how he feels guilty. You know, that his loved ones have, you know, had to experience some of the hardships, or, you know, his loved ones were taken away sooner than, you know, he feels and we feel that they should have been. And he's feeling bad about it, basically. So I had responded to him, and I told him, I said, man, what you're suffering from, I didn't say suffering, but what you're dealing with is referred to as survivor's remorse. And then I kind of told him what it was about, told him look it up or whatnot. And I told him how to explain or help you understand why you're feeling this certain way. So that's what led to me jumping on here today, because this young man's story is common, you know, sad to say, among our youth, especially our urban youth. It's common, and survivor's remorse does not necessarily have to relate to someone dying tragically. It doesn't even have to really relate to death. It could be surviving anything, whether it's surviving hardships of your family and then other family members not making it, and you feel bad for that. That's survivor's remorse. So we're going to get into that. Well, I'm going to get into that for a few minutes today, to hopefully help that young man. Told him I was going to post it. Hopefully he checks it out, and then to you know, help anyone dealing with it, because I think we've all felt it to a certain degree. But so let's get into it. So survivor's remorse, what is it? So survivor's remorse is actually a symptom of PTSD, post-traumatic syndrome disorder, I believe. Yeah, I always get disorder. So survivor's remorse is a symptom of PTSD. And what survivor's remorse basically is when someone feels guilty when those around them did not make it and they did. That's just the overall, I guess, simplistic umbrella of the term survivor's remorse. You know, you feel bad for making it while those that you love may not have made it. You know, it is a form of PTSD, because it is a traumatic thing to go through every day. These particular symptoms that I'm going to get into that fall under those that may be suffering from survivor's remorse. So let me give you some examples of what may lead to someone dealing with survivor's remorse. Of course, one of the most common is having a family member die in a tragic event, especially if you were involved in that event. There was a movie with, there is a movie with, I think it was Bruce Willis, where he was in a plane crash, and then he survived, and I think he had like some superpowers or something, where he was like indestructible, like he couldn't die. But anyway, in that movie, he felt bad because the plane crashed and he was like the only one that survived. So throughout that movie, not only do they focus on, this unique ability he has to defeat death, but they also touch on survivor's remorse because he was dealing with that for the entire movie. So check it out. Can't remember the title of the movie, but Bruce Willis, look it up. Relates to what we're talking about today. So yes, of course, family member dying from a tragic event, especially if he was there, can lead to survivor's remorse. Another form, well, another example of survivor's remorse that doesn't have to do with death is sometimes when you defeat or break the cycle of what people refer to as like a generational curse. So let's say in your family there's just been, just a lot of hardships. People were, not able to overcome these obstacles, and your family has not always been in a situation where people will be looked at, quote unquote, successful. And then you happen to break that mold. You happen to be the one that goes out and, holds the torch for the family. You're looked at as the one that's successful. You're looked at as the one that's supposed to hold it down. You can also suffer what's called survivor's remorse. Even though no one has actually passed, or physically died, you may feel bad because, you're the one that made it out of your family. While you see others in your family that for whatever reason didn't make it, whether they didn't take advantage of the opportunities or maybe they were never given the opportunity. But you can suffer from survivor's remorse even when no one loses a life. Especially if you're in a situation where you've, broken that generational curse and, people make you feel bad about it, and you can't let people do that to you because, we all have choices in life. Of course, we're not all given the same opportunities, but we can make the best of the opportunities we can. So if you are the one that makes it, quote unquote, don't let people make you feel guilty for that, because that's just going to increase those feelings of survivor's remorse. So right there, I gave you two examples of survivor's remorse. So if you're watching this video and you feel like you're dealing with survivor's remorse, it's going to fall in one of those two categories. And these are categorical names I just made up for this, the sake of this video. We'll say, survivor's remorse when dealing with the loss of a loved one, and survivor's remorse when dealing with making it out of hardships, when others are unable to, without the loss of a life. So we all probably experience survivor's remorse to some level, falling within those two categories. So, but let me get more back into survivor's remorse. So I told you what it was. It's basically the overall guilt that a person feels when they make it out of a situation and their loved ones do not. And then I gave you two examples. Survivor's remorse in the sense of losing a loved one to a traumatic or a tragic event. And then also survivor's remorse when you happen to be the one to make it out of a situation and others around you have not been able to do that. And that doesn't involve the loss of a life. So those are things we've covered so far. So if you join us now, go back, rewind, and then jump right back into what we're about to get into now. So as I said, survivor's remorse, it is a symptom of PTSD, which is also viewed as a mental disorder. So people get all cringy when they hear the word mental disorder. If you were able to see the book, and I cannot remember the title of it, it's a book I remember having to use when I took psychology classes. But anyway, it has a list of all the mental disorders, like the ones that are, I don't know, I'm assuming they have a group of people that take symptoms and then put labels on them. So anyway, it has a list of all these things that are considered mental disorders. So if you looked at that, then all of us in the world have a mental disorder to some extent based on these definitions. So when you hear the term mental disorder, as I talk about survivor's remorse, don't get all cringy and freaked out. All right. That's just a term that it falls under. All right. And it does deal with your mental, and it is an abnormal way of living and way of thinking. So that does make it a disorder. So if you're looking at it technically, then yes, it is a mental disorder. So don't get all cringy when I use the word or whatnot. So survivor's remorse. Back to it. So some symptoms of survivor's remorse. If you're thinking, you know what, I feel down, but I'm not quite sure if I'm experiencing survivor's remorse. So let's talk about some symptoms that come along with if you're experiencing survivor's remorse. All right. One of the most common symptoms, flashbacks. Just reliving the situation, especially if you were involved in a traumatic event that led to the loss of a loved one that you made it out of. The flashbacks, the nightmares, that's one of the more common symptoms of someone suffering from survivor's guilt, just rehashing that situation. Another one, being irritable, angry, because you're constantly thinking about that situation. So you walk around on edge all day, living in fear. That's another symptom of survivor's remorse. You're living in fear of, whatever happened to a loved one that possibly happening to you. If it's a situation where no one passed and, you've made it out and feel guilt for that, you may have the fear of falling off, as they say. Some people live with daily anxiety of doing everything they can not to fall off, like living in fear of failure because they don't want to go back to whatever they came from. So yes, living in fear, that's also a symptom of survivor's remorse. And my coffee, you going in right now. I'm hitting a lot of ums too. I need to work on that. So hopefully you're getting the message in between all my ums. I'm conscious of them and I'm gonna work on that, I promise. Okay, so another symptom, helplessness. Just feeling like there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do to get rid of these thoughts. There's nothing you can do to bring that person back. There's nothing that you can do to help those that were unable to make it. You just feel helpless. That's a symptom of survivor's remorse. Because a lot of times, the ones that do survive, do make it out, they would give anything to help those that didn't. They would give anything to have those that didn't make it be in the same situation, because you have to have a heart to have survivor's remorse. All right. Remorse, meaning you have to be remorseful for something. You have to feel bad for something. So you have to have a heart to have survivor's remorse. So people if you're experiencing survivor's remorse, it should tell you that you have a heart, man. You have a heart. You care for people. Like you want people to win. There are some people that would never experience survivor's remorse because they're not concerned if other people win. It's all about just them winning. So if you're experiencing this, shout out to you because that means you have a good heart. All right. So we went over what survivor's remorse is. We've talked about examples of survivor's remorse. We've talked about symptoms of survivor's remorse. Now let's talk about how you can seek some help if you feel like you're dealing with survivor's remorse. Now, this is the part that is, I don't want to say the most important because every part's important, but once you recognize you're dealing with an issue or a challenge, you have to make a commitment to get some help. That's the hard part. That's the kicker right there. Making a commitment to get some help. So commitment first starts with admittment. Is that a word? I kind of try to make it rhyme though, but you know what I mean. It starts with admitting, you're dealing with something. And then you have to be committed to seeking help and accepting help. That is the hard part, people. Because you have to be vulnerable to accept help. You have to be willing to say, look, something's not right. I can't fix it on my own. I need somebody's help. And it's a shame that we live in a society where that type of behavior is looked at as a weakness. So, especially for men. So we're trying to change the narrative. Men and just people in general. I'm even talking to myself. Man, accept the help people offer you, or accept the help that's out there if you know you're dealing with something, whatever that something is. Don't be stubborn. And to my young folks, you'll learn as you get older. Being stubborn it doesn't do anything but cause you to miss out on opportunities and possibly things that could change your life. So don't be stubborn. if you feel like you're dealing with these things, if you don't feel comfortable seeking professional help, at least do the due diligence to do some research on your own and see what kind of self-help you can seek, because there are self-help strategies that you can use, depending on your level of survivor's remorse in this case that you're dealing with. But anyway, so in regards to getting help, of course, the general response is to seek therapy. All right, so I'm not talking about counseling. I'm speaking of therapy. And there's a difference. And I think, well, I know for sure, people speak about the terms as if they're the same. They're different. Counseling is more someone guiding you through the situations of your life to get to whatever point you want. Thus guidance counselor is the term. We don't use the word guidance anymore. We just say counselor. But you are counseling someone through a situation in their life. You're not necessarily trying to change their pattern of thought. You're counseling them through a situation, all right, to get to a better place or wherever they're trying to go. Now, when you talk about therapy, now we're talking about changing someone's thinking, all right? We're talking about changing patterns of behavior. We're talking about changing someone's, cognitive behavior. So therapy and counseling are two different things. So if you're dealing with survivor's remorse, you can seek therapy. All right, seek therapy. That's the just overall general thing that you can do. 1,000 different ways to seek help. All right, look in your community, see what's out there. If you have benefits at your job, check what your benefits say. Some employers will give you so many sessions free with a therapist or a counselor or whatnot. So check that out. See what your options are. But start there. That's just a general thing. Now, me personally, I have my own. I don't want to say theory, but I have my own suggestion. If you are seeking therapy, what you want to look into is something called cognitive behavioral therapy. All right. And basically what this is just changing your pattern of thought, because you can't change the event that happened. Like there's no way that we can go back in time. We all understand that. And that's why some things in life are so difficult, because we want to go back and change them, but we just can't. So cognitive behavioral therapy, you can look it up. You can read about it. If you go see a therapist, ask them about it. It may be a strategy that works for you, but basically what it is just changing your thought patterns, all right, and the behaviors that are related to those. So yeah, check it out. But the overall answer is just start with seeking some therapy. Excuse me, y'all. Put my hand all in the camera. Sorry about that. Start with seeking therapy, and if you feel that cognitive behavioral therapy would work for you, then talk to the therapist about that, or look it up on your own. Some of the things, like I said, you can do some self-help stuff. Either way, you're recognizing that you're dealing with something and you're putting a plan in place to address it. Because here's the thing, let me tell you, nothing is going to take those feelings away until you face them head on, straight up. I'm telling you. Take it from somebody. You can take any type of intoxin that you want to take. You can do whatever activity to keep yourself busy instead of thinking about it. Those thoughts are waiting for you every night when you close your eyes. You know it and I know it, because you go to sleep every day. And you deal with these thoughts every day. So now it's time to just do the hard part. And I'm talking to myself too as I talk to you. Looking these struggles in the face and doing what needs to be done to overcome, because you're stronger than whatever, just like you're stronger than whatever you're dealing with. I promise you. So today we talked about survivor's remorse. Talked about what it is. We talked about different examples. We talked about symptoms, and we talked about how to seek help. And I'm ending it with letting you know that you are stronger than whatever it is you're facing. Excuse me. It's early. And the last thing I ended my conversation with when I was texting this young man, we were DMing, is I told him, look, man, God chose you for a reason. So a lot of times when people are dealing with survivor's remorse, it's because they cannot figure out the reason. Like, why did God choose me to live? Man, you may never know the answer to that question. Okay? But here's one thing for certain. He chose you, and a way that you can show your appreciation is by every day just trying to find that reason. And you will eventually find it. All right? You will eventually find it. But every day you should be appreciative and just live your life in the best way that you feel is fit. That's how you can honor those that did not make it, whether they did not make it due to losing their life or they did not make it due to the hardships of life, you know, where they're still living, but they're just not living how you feel like they should. So, let's all be appreciative today of what we do have, because if you're watching this video, then you obviously among the ones that made it. So let's take advantage of that, do something great today. Whatever struggles you're dealing with, you're stronger than them. Go back into your memory banks and look at all the struggles that you've overcome up until this point in your life. And, you know, this is just another notch on the belt. So let's make it happen. As always, you can hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube under the handle @TheRealCounselor's If you ever want to talk about these things in more depth, if you want to ask me a specific question relating to what's going on in your life, hit me up, please. Love the conversation. And on a business standpoint, if you want me to come to your business or come anywhere to talk about any of these things, we can discuss that as well. But until then, man, live your life, but live it in a manner of what will your legacy be when you leave. You can't. We ain't doing YOLO. We not doing that. It's not reckless saying we not gonna do that. We gonna live every day in a manner with the idea of, if today was it, what will my legacy be? Talking to me too. But until then, it's almost 8 o'clock. Coffee. Till then, y'all take it easy. And yeah, at the Real Counselor's Corner. Oh, hold on before I go. LFANT, elephant. Go see the world. Let me see if you can see that hat. Man, if you don't know anything about elephant, shout out to Ryan Jackson. The reason I'm wearing this is because if one day this video does go big, I want to make sure I'm repping, you know, something that I stand behind 125%. If I could tell you this young man's story, along with his brother Sid, you wouldn't believe me if I did. So go to elephant.com, I believe it is. If I'm incorrect, just go to Google, type in LFANT, put in NYC, and go purchase something, man. Go buy something. And I don't want to hear anything about prices. Go check this man's story out and check out the love and the labor that's put into these garments, you know, that he's putting out there. So go buy something. Don't complain about the price. I'm telling you, it's worth it. Is that rain? It's raining. It's worth it. I've purchased several of his garments. I also have some artwork on my wall over here that I purchased from him. So support, man. Support. Go grab his shirt. Hey, and he just dropped some new stuff for the spring. And he has this camouflage. It's a camouflage, like the pants and the top with the orange elephant on it. Man, go check it out. So I didn't mean to go on that tangent, but I had to give a shout out to Elephant, LFANT. All right, based up in New York, I believe, New Jersey, one of the two. Excuse me if I'm incorrect, but homegrown in Owensboro, Kentucky. So shout out. All right, I think that's telling me it's time to wrap it up, man. I'm out of here. Peace.